Songs of the Writings. By F. W. Moorman. Contents. Preface. A Dalesman's Litany. Cambadunum. Telling the Bees. The Two Lamplighters. Arbeck. Lord George. Jenny Storm. The New Englishman. The Bells of Kirkby Overblow. The Gardener and the Robin. Lyle Dode. His Last Sail. 1 year older. The Hungry Forties. The Flowers of Knaresborough Forest. The Miller by the Shore. The Bride's Homecoming. The Artist. Mara Tubani. Mary Mecca. The Local Preacher. The Courting Gate. Fieldfares. A Song of the Yorkshire Dales. The Flower of Wensleydale. Preface. About 2 years ago I published a collection of Yorkshire dialect poems, chosen from many authors and extending over a period of 250 years. The volume was well received, and there are abundant signs that the interest in dialect literature is steadily growing in all parts of the county and beyond its borders. What is most encouraging is to find that the book has found an entrance into the homes of Yorkshire peasants and artisans where the works of our great national poets are unknown. I now essay the more venturesome task of publishing dialect verses of my own. Most of the poems contained in this little volume have appeared, anonymously, in the Yorkshire press, and I have now decided to reissue them in book form and with my name on the title page. A generation ago the minor poet was, in the eyes of most Englishmen, an object of ridicule. Dickens and Thackeray had done their worst with him. We knew him, or her, as Augustus Snodgrass or Blanche Amory, an amiable fool or an unamiable minx. The 20th century has already, in its short course, done much to remove this prejudice, and the minor poet is no longer expected to be apologetic. His circle of readers, though small, is sympathetic, and the outside public is learning to tolerate him and to recognize that it is as natural and wholesome for him to write and publish his verses as it is for the minor painter to depict and exhibit in public his interpretation of the beauty and power which he sees in human life and in nature. All this is clear gain, and the time may not be far distant when England will again become what it was in Elizabethan days, a nest of singing birds, where minor poets will be able to take their share in the chorus of song, leaving the chief parts in the oratorio to the Shakespeares and Spencers of tomorrow. The 25 poems of which this volume consists are meant to serve a double purpose. Most of them are character sketches or dramatic studies, and my wish is to bring before the notice of my readers the habits of mind of certain Yorkshire men and women whose acquaintance I have made. For 10 years I have gone up hill and down dale in the 3 ridings, intent on the study of the sounds, words, and idioms of the local folk speech. At first my object was purely philological, but soon I came to realize that men and women were more interesting than words and phrases, and my attention was attracted from dialect speech to dialect speakers. Among Yorkshire farmers, farm labourers, fishermen, miners, and mill workers I discovered a vitality and an outlook upon life of which I, a bourgeois professor, had no previous knowledge. Not only had I never met such men before, but I had not read about them in literature, or seen their portraits painted on canvas. The wish to give a literary interpretation of the world into which I had been privileged to enter grew every day more insistent, and this volume is the fulfillment of that wish. Of all forms of literature, whether in verse or prose, the dramatic monologue seemed to me the aptest for the exposition of character and habits of mind. It is the creation, or recreation, of Robert Browning, the most illuminating interpreter of the workings of the human mind that England has produced since Shakespeare died. My first endeavor was therefore. I have been, I fear, a clumsy botcher in applying the lessons that Browning was able to teach, but the dramatic monologues of which this volume is largely composed owe whatever art they may possess to his example. My dramatic studies are drawn from life. For example, the local preacher who expresses his views on the rival merits of church and chapel is a Wharfedale acquaintance, and the farmer in Cambadunum who declares that "Edication's nowt but muckment," actually expressed this view to a chief inspector of schools, a member of the West Riding Education Committee, and myself, when we visited him on his farm. I do not claim that I have furnished literal transcripts of what I heard in my conversations with my heroes and heroines, but my purpose throughout has been to hold a mirror up to nature, to to give a faithful interpretation of thought and character, and to show my readers some of the ply of mind and habits of life that still prevail among Yorkshire men whose individuality has not been blunted by convention, and who have the courage to express their reasoned or instinctive views of life and society. But the interpretation of the minds of Yorkshire peasants and artisans for the benefit of the so-called general reader is only the secondary object which I have in view. My primary appeal is not to those who have the full chorus of English song, from Chaucer to Masefield, at their beck and call, but to a still larger class of men and women who are not general readers of literature at all, and for whom most English poetry is a closed book. In my dialect wanderings through Yorkshire I discovered that while there was a hunger for poetry in the hearts of the people, the great masterpieces of our national song made little or no appeal to them. They were bidden to a feast of rarest quality and profusion, but it consisted of food that they could not assimilate. Spenser, Milton, Pope, Keats, Tennyson, all spoke to them in a language which they could not understand, and presented to them a world of thought and life in which they had no inheritance. But the Yorkshire dialect verse which circulated through the Dales and Chapbook, or Christmas Almanac, was welcomed everywhere. Two memories come before my mind as I write. One is that of a North Riding farm labourer who knew by heart many of the dialect poems of the Eskdale poet, John Castillo, and was in the habit of reciting them to himself as he followed the plough. The other is that of a blind girl in a West Riding village who had committed to memory scores of the poems of John Hartley, and gathering her neighbors round her kitchen fire of a winter evening, regaled them with Bite Bigger, Nellie O'Bobs, and other verses of the Halifax poet. My object is to add something to this chorus of local song. It was the aim of Addison in his Spectator essays to bring philosophy out of closets and libraries, schools and colleges, to dwell in clubs and assemblies, at tea tables and in coffee houses. And in like manner, it should be the aim of the writer of dialect verse to bring poetry out of the coteries of the people of leisure, and to make it dwell in artisans' tenements, and in cottagers' kitchens. Poetry, declared Shelley, is the record of the best and happiest moments of the happiest and best minds, and it is time that the working men and women of England were made partakers in this inheritance of wealth and joy. It may be argued that it should be the aim of our schools and universities to educate the working classes to appreciate what is best in standard English poetry. I do not deny that much may be done in this way, but let us not forget that something more will be needed than a course of instruction in poetic diction and metrical rhythm. Our great poets depict a world which is only to a very small extent that of the working man. It is a world of courts and drawing rooms and general headquarters, a world of clubs and academies. The working man or woman finds a place in this charmed world only if his occupation is that of a shepherd, and even then he must be a shepherd of the golden age and answer to the name of Corydon. Poets, we are solemnly assured by Pope, must not describe shepherds as they really are, but as they may be conceived to have been when the best of men followed the employment of shepherd. Class consciousness, a word often on the lips of our democratic leaders of today, has held far too much sway over the minds of poets, from the Elizabethan age onwards. Spenser writes his Faerie Queen, to fashion a gentleman or noble person in virtuous and gentle discipline, and Milton's audience, fit but few, is composed of scholars whose ears have been attuned to the harmonies of epic verse from their first lisping of Virgilian hexameters, or of latter-day Puritans, like John Bright, who over here in Paradise lost the echoes of a faith that once was stalwart. But what, it may be asked, of Crabbe, and what of Wordsworth? The former by his own confession paints. But as we listen to his verse tales we can never forget that it is the Rev. George Crabbe who is instructing us, or that his pedestal is the topmost story of his three-decker pulpit at Aldborough. Wordsworth's sympathy with the lives of the Cumberland peasantry is profound, and the time is surely not distant when such a poem as Michael will win a place in the hearts of working men. But it is to be feared that in his own generation, Mr. Wordsworth served rather as a warning than an encouragement to his peasant neighbors. Many's the time, an old Cumberland innkeeper told Canon Rawnsley, I've seed him talking his family out in a string, and niver gi'n the deariest bit of notice to 'em, standin' by his cell and stoppin' behind gappin', why his jaws workin' the whole time, but niver no crackin' nor no pleasure in 'em. A desolate-minded man, ekna. It was potry as did it. Our English non-dramatic poetry from the Renaissance onwards is second to none in richness of thought and beauty of diction, but it lacks the highest quality of all, universality of interest and appeal. Our poets have turned a cold shoulder to the activities and aims of the working man, and the working man has, in consequence, turned a cold shoulder to the great English classic poets. The loss on either side has been great, though it is only now beginning to be realized. A literature which leaves large areas of the national activity and aspiration unexpressed is in danger of becoming narrow, esoteric, unhealthy. Areas of activity and aspiration unlit by the cleansing sun of art, untended by the loving consideration of the poet, will be dungeons for the national spirit, mildewed cellars in which rats fight, misers hoard their gold, and Guy Fawkes lays his train to blow the superstructure sky high. There was a time when poetry meant much more to the working men of England. In the later Middle Ages, above all in that 15th century which literary historians are fond of describing as the darkest period in English literature, the working man had won for himself what seemed a secure place in poetry. Narrative, lyric, and dramatic poetry had all opened their portals to him, and made his life and aims their theme. Side by side with the courtly verse romances, which were read in the bowers of high-born ladies, were the terse and popular ballads, which were chanted by minstrels, wandering from town to town and from village to village. Among the heroes of these ballads we find that white yeoman, Robin Hood, who wages war against medieval capitalism, as embodied in the persons of the abbot landholders, and against the class legislation of Norman game laws which is enforced by the king's sheriff. The lyric poetry of the century is not the courtly troubadour song or the Petrarchian sonnet, but the folk song that sings from the heart to the heart of the beauty of Alisoun. Seemliest of all things, or, in more convivial mood, accounts good ale of more worth than a table set with many dishes. Most remarkable of all is the history of the drama in the 14th and 15th centuries. The drama was clerical and not popular in its origin, and when, in course of time, it passed out of the hands of the clergy, it is natural to suppose that it would find a new home at the king's court or the baron's castle. It did nothing of the kind. It passed from the church to the people, and it was the artisan craftsmen of the English towns, organized in their trade guilds, to whom we owe the great cycles of our miracle plays. The authors of these plays were restricted to Bible story for their themes, but the popular character of their work is everywhere apparent in the manner in which the material is handled and the characters conceived. The Noah of the Deluge plays is an English master joiner with a shrewish wife, and 3 sons who are his apprentices. When the divine command to build an ark comes to him, he sets to work with an energy that drives away the weariness of 500 winters, and, ligging on his line, measures his planks, clenches them with noble new nails, and takes a craftsman's delight in the finished work. In like manner, the shepherds of the Nativity plays are conceived and fashioned by men who, fortunate in that they knew nothing of the seductions of Arcadian pastoralism, have studied at first hand the habits and thoughts of English 15th century shepherds, and paint these to the life. Thus, at the close of the Middle Ages, narrative, lyric, and dramatic poetry seemed firmly established among the people. Not unmindful of romance, it was grounded in realism and sought to interpret the life of the peasant and the artisan of 15th century England. The Renaissance follows, and a profound change comes over poetry. The popular note grows fainter and fainter, till at last it becomes inaudible. Poetry leaves the farmyard and the craftsman's bench for the court. The folk song, fashioned into a thing of wondrous beauty by the creator of Amiens, Fest, and Autolycus, is driven from the stage by Ben Jonson, and its place is taken by a lyric of classic extraction. The popular drama, ennobled and made shapely through contact with Latin drama, passes from the provincial marketplace to Bankside, and the rude mechanicals of the trade guilds yield place to the Lord Chamberlain's players. In the dramas of Shakespeare the popular note is still audible, but only as an undertone, furnishing comic relief to the romantic amours of courtly lovers or the tragic fall of princes, with Beaumont and Fletcher, and still more with Dryden and the Restoration dramatists. The popular element in the drama passes away, and the triumph of the court is complete. The Elizabethan court could find no use for the popular ballad, but, like other forms of literature, it was attracted from the countryside to the city. Forgetful of the greenwood, it now battened on the garbage of Newgate, and Robin Hood and Guy of Gisborne yields place to the woeful lamentation of William Purchas, who for murdering his mother at Thaxted, was executed at Chelmsford. We are justly proud of the Renaissance and of the glories of our Elizabethan literature, but let us frankly own that in the annals of poetry there was loss as well as gain. The gain was for the courtier and the scholar, and for all those who, in the centuries that followed the Renaissance, have been able, by means of education, to enter into the courtier's and scholar's inheritance. The loss has been for the people. The opposition between courtly taste and popular taste is hard to analyze, but we have only to turn our eyes from England to Scotland, which lost its royal court in 1603, in order to appreciate the reality of the opposition. In Scotland, the courtly poetry of the 15th and 16th centuries soon disappeared when James I exchanged Holyrood for Whitehall, but popular poetry continued to live and grow. The folk song gathered power and sweetness all through the 17th and 18th centuries, till it culminated at last in the lyric of Burns. Popular drama, never firmly rooted in Scotland, was stamped out by the Reformation, but the popular ballad outlived the medieval minstrel, was kept alive in the homes of lowland farmers and shepherds, and called into being the great ballad revival of the 19th century. It is idle to speculate what would have been the progress of poetry in England if the Renaissance had not come and the Elizabethan courtier had not enriched himself at the expense of the people. What we have to bear in mind is that all through the centuries that followed the Renaissance the working men and women of England looked almost in vain to their poets for a faithful interpretation of their life and aims. The wonder is that the instinct for poetry did not perish in their hearts for lack of sustenance. There are at the present time clear signs of a revival of popular poetry and popular drama. The verse tales of Masefield and Gibson, the lyrics of Patrick McGill, the peasant or artisan plays which have been produced at the Abbey Theatre, Dublin, and the Gaiety Theatre, Manchester, may well be the beginning of a great democratic literary movement. Democracy, in its striving after a richer and fuller life for the people of England, is at last turning its attention to literature and art. It is slowly realizing two great truths. The first is that literature may be used as a mighty weapon in the furtherance of political justice and social reform, and that the Pied Pipers of folk song have the power to rouse the nation and charm the ears of even the Mother of Parliaments. The second is that the working man needs something more to sustain him than bread and the franchise and a fair day's wage for a fair day's work. Democracy, having obtained for the working man a place in the government of the nation, is now asserting his claim to a place in the temples of poetry. The Arthurian knight, the Renaissance courtier, the scholar, and the wit must admit the 20th century artisan to their circle. Piers the plowman must once more become the hero of song, and Saul Kane, the poacher, must find a place, alongside of Tiresias and Merlin, among the seers and mystics. Let democracy look to William Morris, poet, artist, and social democrat, for inspiration and guidance, and take to heart the message of prophecy which he has left us. If art, which is now sick, is to live and not die, it must in the future be of the people, for the people, by the people. In the creation of this poetry, of the people, by the people, dialect may well be called upon to play a part. Dialect is of the people, though in a varying degree in the different parts of the wide areas of the globe where the English language is spoken. It possesses, moreover, qualities, and is fraught with associations, which are of the utmost value to the poet and to which the standard speech can lay no claim. It may be that for some of the more elaborate kinds of poetry, such as the formal epic, dialect is useless. Let it be reserved, therefore, for those kinds which appeal most directly to the hearts of the people. The poetry of the people includes the ballad and the verse tale, lyric in all its forms, and some kinds of satire, and for all these dialect is a fitting instrument. It possesses in the highest degree directness of utterance and racy vigor. How much of their force would the Biglow Papers of J. R. Lowell lose if they were transcribed from the Yankee dialect into standard English? But the highest quality of dialect speech, and that which renders it preeminently fitted for poetic use, is its intimate association with all that lies nearest to the heart of the working man. It is the language of his hearth and home. Many of the most cherished memories of his life are bound up with it. It is for him the language of freedom, whereas standard English is that of constraint. In other words, dialect is the working man's poetic diction, a poetic diction as full of savor as that of the 18th century poets was flat and insipid. It is sometimes said that the use of dialect makes the appeal of poetry provincial instead of national or universal. This is only true when the dialect poet is a pedant and obscures his meaning by fantastic spellings. The Lowland Scots element in Auld Lang Syne has not prevented it from becoming the song of friendship of the Anglo-Saxon race all the world over. Moreover, the provincial note in poetry or prose is far from being a bad thing. In the Idylls of Theocritus it gave new life to Greek poetry in the 3rd century before Christ, and it may render the same high service to English poetry today or tomorrow. The rise of provincial schools of literature, interpreting local life and local idiom, in all parts of the British Isles and in the Britain beyond the seas, is a goal worth striving for. Such a literature, so far from impeding the progress of the literature in the standard tongue, would serve only to enrich it in spirit, substance, and form. A Dalesman's Litany. From Hull, Halifax, and Hell, good Lord deliver us. A Yorkshire proverb. It's hard when folks can't find their work where they've been bred and born. When I were young I allus thought I'd bide 'mong tea roots and corn. But I've been forced to work I towns, so here's my litany, frae Hull, and Halifax, and Hell, good Lord deliver me. When I were courtin' Mary Ann, T'oud Squire, he says one day, I've got no bield for wedded folks, choose, wilt ta wed or stay. I couldn't gie up tea lass I loved, to tea town we had to flee, frae Hull, and Halifax, and Hell, good Lord deliver me. I've wrought I Leeds and Huddersfield, and addled honest brass. I Bradforth, Keighley, Rotherham, I've kept my barns and lass. I've travelled all 3 ridings round, and once I went to sea, frae forges, mills, and coal and boats, good Lord deliver me. I've walked at neat through Sheffield loans, to where same as bein' I hell, furnaces thrashed out tongues o' fire, and roared like tea wind on tea fell. I've sammed up coals I Barnsley pits, why muck up to my knee, frae Sheffield, Barnsley, Rotherham, good Lord deliver me. I've seen grey fog creep our Leeds brig as thick as Bastille's soup. I've lived where folks were stowed away like rabbits in a coop. I've watched snow float down Bradforth Beck as black as ebony, frae Hunslet, Holbeck, Wibsey Slack, good Lord deliver me. But now, when all our childer's fligged, to tea coon try we've coon back. There's 40 mile o' heathery moor twixt us and tea coal pit slack. And when I sit our tea fire at neat, I laugh and shout wi' glee, frae Bradforth, Leeds, and Huddersfield, frae Hull, and Halifax, and Hell, tea good Lords delivered me. Cambadunum. Cambadunum, Cambadunum, how I love the sound o' tea name. Roman soutiers built a fort here, gave T'oud place its lost in fame. We've been lords o' Cambadunum for well nigh 800 year. Folks say our foreelders bouted of a Roman charioteer. I know we're nobbut farmers, mowin' jerse and tendin' kye, but we're proud of all we've stood for yon ages that's gone by. Proud of all the slacks we've drained, and proud of all the walls we've built, proud to think we've bred our childa on the ground where Romans dwelt. Niver pert why Cambadunum. That's what father used to say. If thou does, thou'll come to ruin, beg thy bread through day to day. I'll known pert why Cambadunum, though its roof lets in the rains, and its walls why age are totterin', Cambadunum's I my veins. Ivory stone about the buildin' has been dressed by Roman hands, and red blood o' Roman soutiers has been temmed out on its lands. Often, when I plough springtime, I lead on their buried hoard, coins and pottery, combs and glasses. Once I fan a rusty sword. Wisht! I'll tell thee what I saw here of a moonlit winter neat. Ghosts o' Romans I their war gear, wheelin' slow why silent feet, pale their faces, proud their bearin', and a strange glur I their een, as they marched past and saluted, while east wind blew snell and keen. Dalewards, Iver Dalewards, hill folk wander year by year, and they toss their heads and flout me, when they see me bidden here. I've one answer to their flirrin'. I'll known be a factory slave, breathin' poison I yon workshops, diggin' ivory day my grave. You may addle brass I plenty, you'll known addle peace o' mind, that sal bide amang us farmers on T'oud hills you've left behind. See that place down there IT Valley, where yon chimneys spit out smoke? Huddersfield is what they call it, We are folk live like pigs it poke. We are men grind their hearts to guineas, and their mills are all as thrang, tin in neat time into daytime, niver stoppin' whole year lang. Cambadunum up on hilltops, Huddersfield down Ion Dale. One's a place for free-born Britons, t'other's almost like a jail. Here we live leet in sunshine, free as larks sky abun. They're men too like moudawarps that grub up muck by glent moon. See yon motor whizzin' past us, our out brig that spans our beck. That's what folk call modern progress, march o' human intellect. Modern progress, modern ruin. March o' intellect, march o' fools. All that cooms o' larning childer I their colleges and schoils. Education. Sanitation. Teeming brass rate down a sink. Education's nowt but muckment, sanitation's just a stink. Childer mun have books and pictures, bout at most expensive shops, telescopes to go stargazin', microscopes to look at lops. Farmers mun not put their middens straight afore their kitchen door. Once a week they're set sprinklenin', fettlin' up their shippin' floor. Women folk have ta'en to knackin', willn't spake their mother tongue, try to talk like chaps palpit, chicken-chisted, wake lum. Some folk say I'm too out-fashioned. Meb, they are tellin' true. When you've lived why go so Romans, you've no call for out that's new. Will I know I sant win victory, sons me doubters, wife, yet I'll hold my ground bout flinchin', fate so long as I have life. And if wick uns are me, I sall fate for them that's dead. Roman soutiers I their trenches, lapped I mail through foot to head. Here I stand for Cambadunum, eagle's nest on Pennine hills, wagon war why modern notions, carin' out for forges, mills. Death alone sall call surrender, stealin' on me why his hosts, and when death has won his battle, I'll go seek my Roman ghosts. Then I'll hear their shout o' welcome. Here cooms Bob o' Dick o' Joe's, bred and born at Cambadunum, held out fort agin his foes. Fout for ancient ways and customs, ne'er to fashion bent his knee, op in ranks, lads, let him enter, he's a Roman same as we. Telling the bees. On many Yorkshire farms it was, perhaps still is, the custom to tell the bees when a death had taken place in the family. The hive had to be put into mourning, and when the arval, or funeral feast, was held, after the return from the grave, small portions of everything eaten or drunk had to be given to the bees in a saucer. Failure to do this meant either the death or departure of the bees. Wished. Lotto bees, sad tidings I bear, bees, bees, murmurin' low, call thy his grave ligs your maester dear, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Any a mare he'll ride to sund o horn, any a mare he'll fettle his sickle for corn. Any a mare he'll coom to your skep of a morn, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Muther sits cryin' ingle nook, bees, bees, murmurin' low, parsons anent her holy book, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Mourners are coom, and arval is spread, cakes fresh fray youn, and fine haver bread. But toom is seat at table head, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Look, Connie bees, eyes win in black crape, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Slowly and sadly your skep I mun drape, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Else you will sicken and dwine read away, heartbroken bees, now your maester is clay, or meb you'll leave us dawn o day, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Sitha! I bring you your share o' our feast, bees, bees, murmurin' low, cakes and yowl and wine you mun taste, bees, bees, murmurin' low. Gie some to queen on her golden throne, there's foison to feed both worker and drone. Oh! Deem let us fend for ourselves alone, bees, bees, murmurin' low. The two lamplighters. I niver thought when I grew out I'd tack to leet in lamps. I sud have said I'd rather pad my hoof on road white tramps. But sin I gate that skelp mine, I'm wankle I my head, so Gaffer said I'd give our work and leet town lamps instead. At first, when I were liggin' snug I bed, warm as a bee, were hard to rise and get agate as soon as clock strake 3. And I were flayed to hear my steps echoin' on ivory wall, and flayeder yet when down by church ullets would skreek and call. But now I'm flayed o' nowt, I love all uncurred sounds o' neat, fray childer talkin' I their dreams to tramp o' liceman feet. But most of all I love to hark to song o' birds at dawn, they wakken up afore it gloams, when do ligs thick on lawn. If I feel lonesome, Up I look to t sky abune my head, and there's yon stars all glestern breet, like daisies in a mead. But sometimes, when I'm glowerin' up, I see the Lord his'n, he's deteen all yon lamps o' heaven that shines on mortal men. He lopes along frae star to star, as cobby as can be. Meb he reckons folks asleep, why niver an eye to see. But I hae catched him at his work, for all he maks no din. He leaves a track o' powdered gowd to show where he has been. He's got big lamps and lot o' lamps, and lamps that twinkles red, and capped to see him doubt am all afore I'm back I bed. But he don't lake about his work, or stop to hark to t birds. He minds his business, does the Lord, and wastes no gomless words. I grow more like him ivory day, for all I walk so lame, and, happen, there will come a time I'll beat him at his game. Thrang as Throp's wife, I'll doubt my lamps afore he's gotten so far, and then I'll shout, I've won my race, I bet him by a star. Arbeck. I niver heard its name, we call it just Arbeck. Meb, there's bigger streams down Ripon way, but if thou wants clean water by my neck, thou'll travel far for cleaner, ony day. Clear water! Why, when t sun is up I t sky, I've seen yon flickerin' shadows o' lil trout glidin' ower t shingly bottom. Step thou nigh, and glur at t minnows dartin' in and out. Arbeck flows straight frae slacks o' moorland peat, and gathers sweetness out o' t lingen gorse. At first its voice sounds weetly soft and leet, but graws I strength while lopin' ower yon force. Then now sud see the birds along its banks, grey heronsows, that coom to fish at dawn, dippers, that under t water play CK pranks, and lang-nebbed curlews, swamish as a fawn. Sometimes I've seen young otters leave their holes, and lake like kitlins ower the silver dew, and I've watched squirrels climmin' up the boles o' beech trees, lopin' leet frae bay to bay. Fowers! Why, thou'd fill thy skep, lass, in an hour. Why, gowlins, pagels, blobs, and CK like things, we've daffodils to deck a bridal bower, pansies, we're lady cows can dry their wings. Young childer often bathe, when t weather's fine, up yonder, we're t owd miller's big-eat his weir. I like to see their lish, knacked bodies shine, and watch 'em dive I t water wid fear. Aye, yon's our brig, bent like an archer's bow, it's t meetin' place o' folk frae near and far. Young UNS coom the why lasses logan low, owd UNS to talk o' politics and t war. It's daft when chaps that sit I Parliament wink tak advice frae lads that talk farm twang. If t country goes to t dogs, it's cause they've sent our mony city folk to mend what's wrang. They've ta'en our daytail men to fate for t land, then tell us we mun keep our staggers full. What's lasses, govies, greybeards stark I t hand, to strip WR kai, and plo and 2YT shul. But there I'll nurse my threppin while it rains, and while my rheumatiz is bad to bide, I mun step hemewards now, through t yats and lanes, wheer t owd lass waits for me by t fireside. Lord George. These verses were written soon after the Old Age Pensions Bill came into operation. I'd walk frae here to Skipton, 10-mile old Clardy lanes, if I might see him face to face and thank him for his pains. He's ta'en me out o' t Bastille, he's gin me life that's free, 5 shillin' a week for fugglin' death is what Lord George gives me. He gives me lead and firin', and flour to bak I t I've tea to mesh for ivory meal and sup all t afternoon. I've nowt to do but thank him, and mak across YT pen, 5 shillin' a week for nobbut that. Gow! He's the jewel o' men. I niver mell on politics, but I do love a lord. He spends his savin's like a king, we're other folks LL hoard. I know a vast o' widdies that's seen their 70th year. Lord George, he addles brass for all, though lots on tea goes for beer. If my owd man were livin', he'd say as I spak true, he couldn't thole them yallow rads, but allus voted blue. And Parson's wife, she telled me that we'll soon go to tea poll. I hope shoe's rate. I'll vote for George, why all my heart and soul. I don't know wheer he springs frae, happen it's down Leeds way, but ivory neat and mornin' for his lang life I pray. He's ta'en me out o' t Bastille, he's gin me life that's free, 5 shillin' a week for fugglin' death is what Lord George gives me. Jenny Storm. Young Jenny, she walked ower t ribbed sea sand, t lyrock sing sae sweetly, oh wheer she met a fisher lad, net I t hand, as t tide cam home in. Jenny, thy farm is 3 mile away. T wing mouse flits sae featly, oh say, what is thou Latin at dusk o' day, when te tide cooms home in? I's Latin waith and strafe by the theme, oh! Esh and yak are good for beeld, I's Latin timber to big me a heem, as te tide cooms home in. What for is thou Latin waith and strafe? Te summer gauze floats our hedge and field, what for is thou biggin a heem and a hafe, when te tide cooms home in? To morn is te day when I sall be wed, te bridewains plenished why serge and silk, Jocks anchored his boat I te lang roadstead, and te tide cooms home in. To morn we gone to te kirk on te brow, Nesh sat and shoon as white as milk, fisher folk why me, and plo lads now, when te tide cooms home in. Fray thy jilted lad what gift mun thou get? Te lyrock sing sae sweetly, oh, twee lucky steens, or fine earrings o' jet, when te tide cooms home in. I'll tak nae rings nor steens frae thee, te wing mouse flits sae featly, oh, but yon token I gave thee gie back to me, no te tide cooms home in. Thy token is safe I te boggle nook, te seamew plains when te sun climbs doon, thou can find it thistle, if thou'll gone and look, when te tide cooms home in. Young Jenny, she tripped our te yallow strand, white ullets dance I te glent o' te moon, her step was our lead to dimple te sand, as te tide kem home in. I te boggle nook lay te lad she sud wed, te neat hags screek sae dowly, oh, foul seaweed cluthered abune his head, and te mouth she had kissed why blood was red, as te tide kem home in. Any a tear she shed, any a word she spak, te witches glur sae foully, oh, but an offish laugh flew our te rack, as te tide kem home in. They carried them heme by te leet o' te moon, te neat hags screek sae dowly, oh, him to his grave on te brow abune, her to yon mad house I Scarborough tune, where te tide cooms home in. The New Englishman. I've lived all my life I Keithley, I'm a Yorkshire artisan, and when I were just turned 70 I became an Englishman. Nat Rallis German. Nay, dang it! I'm British born, same as thee. But I niver thought Michigan to my country, while my country thought Michigan to me. I were proud o' my lodge and my union, and proud o' my town and my shire, but all te consands o' te nation, I left to te parson and te squire. Class war were te faith that I 'ived for, I called all capitalist sharks, and te workin' man has no country, were my gospel according to Marx. When I'd losten my job back I te 80s, and were likened for well nigh 2 year, who said that an auto work fetler were costin' his country dear? Owd England cared nowt about me, I could clem why my barns and my wife, she were our thrang why buildin' up te empire to build up a brocken life. Ivory man for his sin, she said, and te dilla can catch what he can, labor's cheap and trade's worth more nor te life of a workin' man. When te country were chuff and boasted that te sun niver set on her flags, I thought o' WR back-to-back houses, WR childa I spetches and rags. When te country drave by her carriage, why flunkies afore and behind, I left her to better me bodies, and I gav her a taste o' my mind. But when she were liggin' I te gutter, why a millet wrist mob at her throat. Hands off her! I cried. Shoose my mother! And I doffed my cap and my coat. I'd gene our work at 70, but I gat agate once more. I'll live for my country, not on her, were my words on te fetler's floor. Shoose put in her trust I us workers, will save her, niver fear, fate for her, live for her, die for her childa that loves her dear. 8 o' my grandsons has fallen, my youngest lad's crippled I te arm, but I'll give her choose what shoe axes, afore I'll see her tak harm. Te war is a curse and a blessin', if folks could understand. It's broken my home and my childer, but it's made me an Englishman. The bells of Kirkby overblow. Draw back my curtains, Mary, and open te windy wide. Aye, I know I'm deein', while tomorn I'll hardlands bide. But yet afore all's over, and I lay cowed as snow, I'll hear once more them owd church bells o' Kirkby overblow. Mony a neat and mornin' I've heerd yon church bells peal, and how I've thrept and cursed 'em when I was strong and weel. Gert, skelpin, chunterin' tastrils, all janglin' in a row. Aye, mony a time I've cursed yon bells o' Kirkby overblow. When you hear yon church bells ringin', you can't enjoy your sin. Te bells clutches at your heartstrings I te alehouse hour your gin. At pitch and toss your like in, down there I te would below, and then you damn them roupy bells o' Kirkby overblow. And when I've set off poachin' at back end o' the year, why ferret, bag and snickle, church bells have catched my ear. Thou's tackin' T road to hell, lad, we're T pit fires bumin' slow. That's what yon bells kept shoutin' out at Kirkby overblow. But now I'm out in bed fast, I almost like their sound, ringin' so clear it starlight across the frozen ground. I niver mell on parsons, there ain't a prayer I know, but prayer and sarmons I yon bells o' Kirkby overblow. 6 boards o' good stout ellum is what I'll want to mourn, then lay me low churchyard aneath out crooked thorn. I'll have no funeral sarvice when I'm browt down below, but let Towselty bells like mad at Kirkby overblow. I don't know where I'm bound for, it hardlands can be heaven. I've sinned more sins nor most men twixt 1 and 7. But this I'll tack my oath on, wherever I mun go, I'll hark to t echoes o' yon bells o' Kirkby overblow. The gardener and the robin. Why, Bobby, so thou's come ageen. I'm fain to see thee here. It's lang sin I've set een on thee, it's almost half a year. What's that thou says? Thou'st ta'en a wife and raised a family. It seems thou'st gene all the slip now back ends drawin' nigh. I mun forty thee, we're out friends, and fraction's not for us. Blackbirds and spinks I can't abide, at doves and crows I cuss. But thou'll noan steal my strawberries, or nip my buds o' plum. Most featherfowl I drive away, but thou can allus coom. Aye, that's thy place, at top o' t clod, thy head cocked o' one side, lookin' as farlearned as a judge. Is that a worm thou spied? By t Megs. He's well nigh 6-inch lang, and read as t gate it park. If thou don't mesh him up a bit, he'll gie thee belly work. My missus allus lets me know I'm known so dup thin. If I ate sausages as thou eats worms, I'd bruise my skin. Howd on. Leave some for t moudawarps that scrats down under t grund. Of worms, and mawks, and bumbleclocks thou setten half a pund. So now thou'll clear thy pipes and sing, grace after meat I suppose. Thou looks as holy as t oud Saint I church y t brocken nose. Thou's plannin' marlocks all the time, down at thy soudier coat, and what we tack for him's o' praise is just thy fraction note. I've seen thee fadin' there on t lawn, beneath yon laurel tree. Thy neb was reed wy bluid, thou looked as chuffy as could be. Thou'st got no mense nor morals, Bob, but will I know thy charm. Aye, thou can stand upon my spade. I'll niver do thee harm. Lyle Dode. The Lord's been hard on me, sir, he's stown my barn away. Oh Dowley was that neat he stole Lyle Dode away. 'Twas Whistintide we wedded, next Easter he was born, just as t last star it April sky had faded into t morn. Throstles were singing, canty, for they'd their young it nest, but birds don't know a mother's love that houds her barn to t breast. When work was our summer, I nussed him on my knees, and Mike browed home at losin' time wild rasps and strawberries. We used to sit on t doorsill it leet o' t harvest moon, while our Lyle Dode would clench his fists and suck his toes and croon. But when t Melsheaf was gotten, and back-in days set in, why frost at neat and roke by day, his face gate pinched and thin. We niver knew what ailed him, he faded like a floor, he faded same as skies'll fade when t sun dips into t moor. Church bells on Kersma's mornin' rang out so merrily, but cowed and dreesome were our hearts, we knew Lyle Dode must die. He lay so still in his cradle, and slowly he dwined away, while I laid 2 pennies on his e'en on Holy Innocents' Day. The Lord's been hard on me, sir, he's stown my barn away. Oh, Dowley was that neat he stole Lyle Dode away. His last sale. T water is blue it often, and blue is t sky aboon. Swallows are settin' so hard, and wannin' is t harvest moon. Our lang I been cowerin' idle I my nook by t fireside. I'll away yance mare I my coble, I'll away wy t ebon tide. Nay, grandsir, thou mont gone sailin', thou mun bide at yam to neat. At 82 thou sun think o' t would be fishin' fleet. North cones up on t Flagstaff, there's a capful o' wind it bay. T waves wap loud on t harbor bar, though can hardlands fish today. It's leansome here it who's, lass, when t fisher folks at sea, watchin' yon Eldon set it fire bleeze up, dwine dune, and d. And t seagulls they coom flyin' abone our red roof tiles. They call me Dune the chimley, and laugh at other whiles. There's mackerel ot at sea, lad, is what I hear 'em say. There's silver scales are glestern breet, look ot across the bay. But mackerel's not for thee, lad, for those our weak to sail. My een why saw tears daggle when I hear their mockin' tale. Dean't mind their offish screekin', they tice folk to their death, then ride aboon yon billows and glur at them beneath. They glur at endless corpses slow driftin' why the tide, deep dune amang the weedy wrack, wheer t scaly fishes glide. I'd fain lig why my kinsfolk, for elders, brothers, sons, wheer t starfish shine like twinklin' leets, and t springtide water runs. T kirkyard's good for farm folk, that pull and milk their kye, but I could sleep maist sundly wheer t ship's gone sailin' by. T grave is wished and falsome, but clean is t sought seabed, though can hark to t billows dancin' to t tune o' t tide o'erhead. Yon reeds o' floors I t kirkyard shone wither and fade away, but t sea tang reeds round a droon man's head will bide while judgment day. As se fettle my out blue cobble, I kessend her. Mornin' star! An hour away through t often weir t skulls o' mackerel are. Though can look for my boat I t harbor, when those said thy mornin' psalm, meb I'll fill my fish creel full, meb I'll neem coom yam. 1 year older, 1 year outer, 1 year dearer, that's what I sall allus say. Draw thy chair a little nearer, put yon stockins right away. Thou hast done enough I thy time, to thy tea house and rout at loom, just for once thou mun sit idle, feed on tea hearstone, fingers tomb. 1 year outer, 1 year dearer, so I promised when we Wednesday then thy een were glestrin' clearer nor the stars abune us spread. If they're dimmer now, they're tendrer, and yon wrinkles on thy face tell a lesson true as t Bible, speak o' charity and grace. 1 year outer, 1 year dearer, we've supped sorrow, tasted joy, but our love has grown sincerer, gathered strength nought can destroy. Love is like an oak it forest, every year it adds a ring. Love is like yon ivern tendrils, every day they closer cling. 1 year outer, 1 year dearer, time's the shuttle, life's the yarn. Have thy crosses seemed severer cause thou niver had a barn? Meb I sud not have loved thee half so weel, if I mud share all our secret thoughts white childer, twinin' round my out armchair. 1 year outer, 1 year dearer, 'tis our gowden weddin' day. There sall coom no gomless fleerer to break in upon our play. Look, I've stacked our door and window let me lap thee on my arms, hush to neat be ivory murmur, while my kiss thy pale face warms. The hungry 40s. Thou wants my vote, young man whitey carpet bags, we'll sit thee down, and hark what I've to say. It's known so very oft our kitchen flags are mucked by real live lords down Yelland way. I've read thy spakes it paper of a neat, thou lets a vast o' words flow off thy tongue. Thou's gotten facts and figures, plain as tea leet, and arguments to slocken out and young. But what are facts and figures side o' truths we've bout white childed tears and brocken lives? And what are arguments o' cockard used to set ageen yon groans o' caitiff wives? 'Twere hungry 40s, when I were a lad, and folks were clemmed, and weak it airman brain. We lived on de McTotties, bread gone sad, and wackened up o' neats cruddled why pain. When tea quartern loaf were raised to 1 and 4, we'd water brews, Swedes down out o' tea field. Farmers were tea landlords' jackalls, and us poor tood in Egyptian bondage unrepealed. I mind them times when lads marched down our street why penny loaves on pikes all steeped I bluid. It's bread or bluid, they cried. We've now to eat, to hell why all that taxes tea people's food. There was a papist duke that come alling why curry powders, and he telled our boss that when folks' bellies felt pinations ting, for bread, yon stinkin' powders they mun sauce. I went to work when I were 8 year out. I tended galloways and sammed up coils. 'Twere warm it pit, a bun tea were depert cowed, and clothes were nobbut spetches, darns and hoils. Through 6 to 8 I worked, then 2 mile walk across yon sumpy fields to tea kitchen door. I've often fainted, face as white as chalk, then fallen lang length upon our cobble floor. My mother addled 7 and 6 a week, slavin all tea day at Ackroyd's wavin' shed, Faither at tea Grunstone rout, while he fell sick, steal Fillin's gate until his lungs, he said. I come thee then no thank for all thy spakes, thou might as well have spared teas and thy pains. I see no call to lake at ducks and drakes why tea bitter truth that's burnt intil our brains. Corn laws be damned, said Dad I 48. Corn laws be damned, say I 19.5. Tariff reform, choose, how, we'll have to wait down yellin' way, so lang as I'm alive. If thou and thine sud tax us workers' food, and thrust us back in our out misery, may te tears o' our dead shieldeth in thy blood, and te curse o' te, hungry 40s, lead on thee. The flowers of Knaresborough Forest. But now they are moaning, on Ilka Green loaning the flowers of the forest are a weed away. Jane Elliott, 1727 to 1805. Oh, daytime is weary, and dark o' dusk dreary for te lasses I te mistal, or rack an hour te hay, when te kai coom for strip in, or te youse for their clip in, we think on our soutiers now gone read away. The courtin' gates idle, nay lad flings his bridle hour te yak stoop, and sleely cooms seekin' his may. The trod by the river is green as a sliver, for the flowers o' the forest have all stown away. At Martymas hirons, nay ribbons, nay tyrants, when te godspennies addled, and tea times coom for play, nay cheapjacks, nay dancin', why te teamster clogs prancin', the flowers o' the forest are all flown away. When at neat church is lowsin', and te out ullet is rousin' his cell I are lithe, we're he slumbered all te day, ways te heart. But we misses our lad's softest kisses, now the flowers o' the forest are gone read away. Pull lads frae panel have crossed our the channel, shipwards frae Fuston have ta'en the king's pay, Thackeray's frae Dacca have sold ivory acre, thou'll find ne'er a delver frae Havre to Bray. When te north wind is howlin', and te west wind is yowlin', it's for te farm lads at sea that us lasses mun pray. Tassie will o' te new biggin, keepin' watch I his riggin', loud jock I his FOC sally, torpedoed I te bay. Mony a lass now is weepin' for her marrow that's sleepin', why nae beeld for his corp but the cowed flanther's clay. He'll ne'er lift his limbers, he'll ne'er wean his jimmers, aye, there's flowers o' the forest are withered away. The miller by the shore and east coast shante. The miller by the shore am I, a man o' depert sense. I've 40 different sorts o' ways o' addlin' honest pence. Good wheat and whuts and barleycorns my mill grinds all te day lang. Frae 5 o' te morn while 7 o' te neat my days are vara thrang. I mill a bit, I till a bit, I de all max o' jobs, frae followin' ploughs and hollowin' coos to mend in chairs and squabs. Oh! Folks they laugh and girn at me, I niver tak it ill. If I's the jack o' ivory trade, they all bring grist to te mill. I tend my 100 yacker farm, and milk my kyle o' kai. I've Lincoln youse and Leicester tups and 20 head o' wye. I've stirks to tack to Scarborough mart, I've mears for farmers' gigs, and oh! I wish that you could see my lottle sukin pigs. I mill a bit. When summer days grows lang and breet, o te cooms my Noah's arks. We're city folk undress there's els and don my bath and sarks. And when they get on land, Jean, I rub em smooth as silk, then bring em oti, to fill their weems, my parkin seeks and milk. I mill a bit. I pike stray timber on the shore, and cuvins on the scar. I know we're crabs I'll hugger up, I know we're te lobsters are. I've cobles fishin' o te bay, for whitings, dabs and cods, I've herring trawls and salmon nets, I've hooks and lines and rods. I mill a bit. On darksome neats, back end o te year, I like another sport. I row my boat where te lugger lies, coom frae some foreign port. A guinea in a coastguard's poke will mak him stek his een, so he says now when I coom yam wysent and saccharin. I mill a bit. The bride's homecoming. Though mun hod on tight, my darlin', we've mony a beck to cross. Twixt thy father's who's and mine, love, there's a vast o' slacks and moss. But Tawd mare, shoo weent wenmo though there's twee on her back astride. Shoo says prud as me, is Snowball, no eyes fetching him my bride. A weddin', a woo, a clog and a shoe, a pot full o' porridge, away we go! Gow! But I feel leetsome, sin I've lived to see this day. My heart is like a blackbard's after a shore I may. It sky abun any lyrock has Michigan read to sing as I have. No, I've wedded te lao lasso fulsa ing. A weddin', a woo, a clog and a shoe, a pot full o' porridge, away we go! Does ta hear yon water bubblin', deep do nigh te Merlin streams? It sounds like childer voices when they're logan I their dreams. And look at yon lang-tailed pyates, there 's 3 on 'em, I'll off it. Folks say that three's for a weddin', aye, a pie it's a canny bod. A weddin', a woo, a clog and a shoe, a pot full o' porridge, away we go! I love to feel thee clingin' while thy hands are in my breast, thy bosom's leetly heaven, like a ship on tea salt waves' crest. And thy breath is sweet as tea breezes, that cooms our tea southern hills, when tea violet blaws I tea springtime why tea yallow daffodils. A weddin', a woo, a clog and a shoe, a pot full o' porridge, away we go! Is ta gettin' tired, my honey, will be he my half an hour, though see our who's in Staggarth, why tea beer trees ben in our. There's a little o' chamber to welcome my veely bride, and Sean will be their orsels, lass, liggin' cozy side by side. A weddin', a woo, a clog and a shoe, a pot full o' porridge, away we go! The artist. Lang-haired govies coom my way, drawin' tea out abbey and brig, all their crack is o' art stadies and pictures and paints, want to put me on their canvas, down at my farmer's rig, tell me I'm pairt o' tea scenery, stained glass windies and saints. I reckon I'm artist and all, though I niver gave it a thought, breeder o' stock is my trade, Mike pullin' o' tea abbey close. What sud a farmer want why pictures that brass has bout? All his art is I tea misdal, where tea heifers are ranged I rows. Look at yon pedigreed bull, why an eye as breed as a star, and a coat that shines like velvet, when it catches tea glint o' tea sun. Hark to him beelin' for tea cows, why a voice like tea thunder on tea scar, watch them sinews I tea neck, ripplin' why mischief and fun. 3 generations o' men have lived their lives for yon bull, toot at his keep all tea day, dreamed o' his sleekness all tea neat, moulded the bugth o' his buttocks, fashioned the breadth o' his skull, ivory won on artists, sculptors o' butcher's meat. What are your Rubens and Van Dycks anent the craft that is breed? Anent the art that is life, what's figures o' bronze or stone? Us farmers mold you models, better nor stat eyes that's dead, strength that is wick I the flesh, beauty that's bred I the bone. Bailiffs doter at tea hollands, shoes breed, and shoes life, and shoes art, bred frae a Westmoreland statesman out o' a craven lass, carries herson like a queen when she drives to market it cart, known o' yon scrawmy-legged painters sal ever get hout o' her brass. Pictures is rate enough for folks cluttered up I leads, folks that have ne'er handled beasts, can't tell a tup frae a yo, but the art for country lads is the art that breathes and feeds, and tea finest gallery it world is a Yorkshire cattle show. Mara to Bonnie. What would you do why a doter, pray why her, bensel her, flout her, say, what would you do why a daughter that's Mara to Bonnie his'n? I prayed why her first, of a Sunday, when chapel was losen for tea neat, and I laid all her cock aloft marlocks for th Almighty's mercy seat. When I looked for her tears o' repentance, I jealous that I saw her laugh, and she said that tea powers o' justice would scatter my words like chaff. Then I bensiled her hard in her chamber, as I bensils out netty it cart. If prayers will teach thee, my dolly, happen whipstock will mak thy tears start. But she stood there as chuff as a Mahomet, not one chunrin word did she say, but she hoped that tea blood o' tea martyrs would wash all my sins away. Then I thought, Meb Flouten will mend her, so I watched while she cam out o' tea mill, and afore all yon wyke lads and lasses I fleered at her right up our hill. She winced when she heard all their girnin', then she whispered, a sob by her throat, I reckon I'll noan think o' weddin' while women are givin' their vote. What would you do why a doter, pray why her, bensel her, flout her, say, what would you do why a daughter that's Mara to Bonnie his'n? Mary Mecca. Mary Mecca, Mary Mecca, I'm fain to see thee here, a Devon lass to fill my glass o' home-brewed Yorkshire beer. I allus said that foreigners sud niver mell on me, but seek a viewly face as thine I'd travel far to see. Mary Mecca, I'm sad to see thee here, where tea wind blaws hask frae Norway it springtime o' the year. I'd liever find thee sittin', why a bowl o' cruds and cream, where tea foxglove bells ring through the dells, anent a Dartmoor stream. Mary Mecca, the way thou snods thy hair, it maks my heart go dancin' like windless straws it air. One night I heard thee singin', as I kem home frae tune, 'twas sweet as curlews mackin' love agin a risin' moon. Mary Mecca, I dream o' thy greyeen, I think on all I've wasted, and what I might hae been. I'm now but muck off tea midden, so all I ax is this, just blaw the froth from off my yawl, 'twill seem most like a kiss. The local preacher. I'm a ranter, so at least folks say. Happen they tell t same tale o t 'Postle Paul. I've ranted 50 year, cum first o May, and never changed my gospel through 'em all. There's nowt like t blood o t lamb and t fire o hell to bring a hardened tastrel to his knees. If folks want more nor that, then thou can tell 'em straight, I've got no cure for their disease. I will enthrall this new theology that blends up hell why heaven, sinners why saints, for black was black when I turned Methody, and white was white, I souls as will as paints. That's allus t warp and t weft o my discourse, and allus will be, lang as I can teach. If folks won't hearken tull it, then, of course, they go to church and hear t oud parson preach. His sermons like his bocce, sweet and mild, folks almost half asleep at t second word. By t mass, they're wick as lops, aye, man and child, when I stand up and wrastle why the Lord. Nay, I'm not blammin' parson, I'll want, preachin's his trade, same way as millin's mine. I trade you've got to gie folks what they want, and that is mostly sawcum mesh reed fine. Tax squire there, he don't want no talk o hell, he likes to hark to t parable o t tears. He reckons church is wheat that's good to sell, but chapel's nobbut kexes, thorns, and breers. Squires' lasses, they can't do why t blood o t lamb, they're all for t blood o t foxes, like our Bob. The Lord his'n will have to save or damn church folks without me mellin' on his job. But gie me chapel lasses gone astray, or lads that cooms home druffin' of a neat, and I'll raise Cain afore I go away, if I don't giem t glent o t gospel leet. I'll mak 'em sit on t penitential stools, and roar as loud as t buzzer down at t mill. I'll mak 'em own that they've been depert fools, why all their pride o life a bitter pill. I've mony texts, but all to one point keep, same as all t becks flow down to one sought sea, damnation and salvation, goats and sheep, that's t Bible gospel that thou'll get through me. The courting gate. There's dew upon the meadows, and bats are wheelin' high, the sun has set an hour sin, and evenin' leets I t sky. Swallows I t thack are sleepin', neat hawks are swift on t wing, and grey moths gathers honey amang the purple ling. O come and meet me, Mally, O come and greet me, Mally, meet me, greet me, at the courtin' gate. The firelight casts thy shadow thwart the kitchen wall, it's dancin' up and doon, lass, my heart does dance and all. 3 times I've gien your love call to bring my bird to t nest. When wilt a coom, my throstle, and shelter on my breast? O come and meet me, Mally, O come and greet me, Mally, meet me, greet me, at the courtin' gate. I've rowed all t day at t harvest, but ivory hour seemed sweet, acause I thought I'd haud thee clasped I my arms to neat. Black Bess she raked aside me and looked at me and smiled. I telled her I loved Mally, it made her depert wild. O come and meet me, Mally, O come and greet me, Mally, meet me, greet me, at the courtin' gate. Thy shadow's gone frae t kitchen, t whose door is apeen wide. It's she, my Vewley Mally, the lass I'll mak my bride. White lilies in her garden, fling o to your scent I t air, and mingle breath white tea roses I've gathered for her hair. O let me haud thee, Mally, O let me faud thee, Mally, haud thee, faud thee, at the courtin' gate. Field fairs. Field fairs, bonny field fairs, feedin' mang the bent, wheer the sun is shirning through yon clouds wide rent. Welcome back to t moorlands, frae Norway's fells and shorelands, welcome back to Wardell, now October's almost spent. Noisy, chackin' field fairs, will I ken your cry, when I flocks your sweepin' o'er the hills sae high, oft on trees you gathers, preenin' out your feathers, and I'm fain to see your coats as blue as t summer sky. Curlews, larks and tuits, all have gone frae t moors, frost has nipped it garden all my bonny floors. Roses, lilies, pansies, stocks and yallow tansies fade away, and soon the leaves clutter doon I showers. Here I bed I'm liggin' day by day hae cart wemmeld hour, and underneath I lay. I was nobbut 7, soon I'll be 11, fower times have I seen you field fairs coom and flee away. You'll be gone when t swallow bigs his nest alone, April winds blah you far our t sought sea foam. You'll not wait while Maytime, summer dews and haytime, lang afore our jurs is maun your mates call you home. Field fairs, liltin field fairs, you'll noan sing to me? Why said you bide silent while you've crossed the sea? Are you broken-hearted, sin frae home you've parted, leavin' far frae Yorkshire moors your nests it tall fir tree? Stormcock sings at New Year, swinging on yon esh, sings his loudest song when t winds do beat and lash. Robins, throstles follow, and when cooms the swallow, all the birds chirm to see our woodlands green and nesh. Fieldfares, bonny fieldfares, I'll be gone for you. I'm essay weak and dowly, hands are thin and blue. Pain is growin' stranger, as the neats get languor. Will you miss my face at whiles, when t'oud years change to tea new? A song of the Yorkshire Dales. A song I sing o' t Yorkshire Dales, that wind frae t moors to t sea, frae t breast o' t fells, weir t cloud rack sails, their becks flow merrily. Their banks are breet wi' moss and broom, and sweet is t scent o' t time. You can hark to t bees soft, dreamy semi t foxglove bells and t lime. Oh, Swaddle's good for horses, and Wensleydale for cheese, and Airedale Falk are busy as a bee. But wheresoe'er I wander, my out heart I grows fonder o' Wardle, we're all lig me down in D. Reet bonny are our dales I march, when t curlews tack to t moors, there's ruddy buds on ivory larch, primroses down their floors. But bonnier yet when t August sun leads up yon plats o' ling, and girt white fishes lope and scun, we're t weirs our t water hing. Oh, Swaddle's good, by Ivory Beck and Abbey sleeps, and t ullet is t oud prior. A jackdaw thruff each windy peeps, and bigs his nest it choir. In Ivory Dale a castle stands, sing Clifford, Percy, Scrope, they thrept amang themselves for t lands, but fout for t king or t pope. Oh, Swaddle's good, oh, eastward ho, is t song o' t gales, as they sweep our fell and Leah, and eastward ho, is t song o' t dales, that went frae t moors to t sea. Coom winter frost, coom summer druft, their waters mun not bide, and t rain that's fallen when bold winds soft sal ever seawards glide. Oh, Swaddle s good, the flower of Wensleydale. She leaned o'er her latticed casement, the flower of Wensleydale. 'Twas St. Agnes Eve at midnight, through the mist the stars burnt pale. In her hand she held 12 sage leaves, plucked in her garden at noon, and over them she had whispered thrice the spell of a mystic rune. For many had come a-wooing the maid with the slow blue eyes, fain would she learn of St. Agnes to whom should fall the prize. They said she must drop a sage leaf at each stroke of the midnight hour, then should the knight of her father's choice obey the summons of her voice, and appear neath her orieled bower. To the holy Virgin Martyr she lifted her hands in prayer, then she watched the rooks that perched asleep in the chestnut branches bare. At last on the frosty silence there rang out the midnight chime, and the hills gave back in echoes the knell of the dying time. She held her breath as she counted the beats of the chapel bell. At every stroke of the hammer a sage leaf fluttered and fell, slowly fluttered and fell. Her heart stood still a moment, as the last leaf touched the ground, and her hand went swift to her maiden breast, for she heard a far-off sound. 'Twas the sound of a horseman spurring his steed through the woodland glade, and ever the sound drew nearer, and the footfalls echoed clearer, till before her bower they stayed. She strained her eyes to discover, by the light of a ghostly moon, who as the night had heard and obeyed the hest of the mystic rune. But naught could she see from her casement, save a man on a coal-black steed, for his mantle was muffled about him, his blazon she could not read. She crossed herself and she whispered, her voice was faint but clear. Oh, who art thou that darest ride through the aspen glade by the river's side, my chamber window near? Say, art thou the Lord of Bainbridge, or Gervas of Bolton Hall, that comest so late on St. Agnes Eve within my manor wall? I am not the Lord of Bainbridge, nor Gervas of Bolton Hall, but I marked the light in thy casement, and I saw the sage leaves fall, flutter a while and fall. Camest thou over the moorlands, or camest thou through the dale? Speak no guile to a witless maid, but tell me a soothfast tale. I came not over the moorlands, nor along the dale did ride, but thou seest thy plighted lover, that has come to claim his bride. Say, art thou knight or yeoman, of noble or simple birth? Fain would I know thy lineage, thy prowess, and thy worth. Nor knight nor lowly yeoman, but a mighty king am I, bold vassals do my bidding, and on mine errands high. They come to court and castle, they climb the palace stairs, nor pope nor king may entrance bar to him my livery wears. But why should a king so mighty pay court to a simple maid? My father's a knight of low degree, no princely realm he holds in fee, no proud foot damsels wait on me, thy steps have surely strayed. No step of mine hath wandered from the goal of my desires, 'tis on thee my hopes are centered, 'tis to thee my heart aspires. I love thee for thy beauty, I love thee for thy grace, I love thee for the dancing lights that gleam in thy moonlit face, and these I deem a peerless dower to win a king's embrace. One boon, O royal lover, I ask on St. Agnes' day, I fain would gaze on thy visage fair ere with thee I steal away. Unmuffle thou the mantle that hides thee like a pall, and let the purple trappings from off thy shoulders fall. Slowly he loosed the mantle, and showed his face beneath. The lights went out in the maiden's eyes, one swooning word she breathed to the skies, the gaunt hills echoed, Death!